In this episode, I share the meaning of true wealth.
Oh, there's some light coming. Look at that. I've got some lovely side light on my camera. That's not where I want it, but hey, did you get any fish?
Nah, just a couple of crabs, really. Rubbish.
The erosion just creates these unbelievable patterns. If it does, I reckon I'll have just minutes to get the shot. Now, if I brought my telephoto lens, but I didn't bring it, did I? I didn't bring it. Yeah. There is my quite interesting starfish. Then you put on 2 pairs of socks, which you absolutely must pull all the way up. Just look at that rock formation. So I brought 1 camera, 1 lens, no telephoto. Yeah. You know, it's a cutting edge of fashion that I set for landscape photographers. And the sun is hitting that rain as it cascades down. I just love that kind of light. Low tide. It's not low. It's not low, is it?
This story begins on a remote Gulf island on the BC coast. As always, the day begins at stupid o'clock with a quick check on the tide, which looks worryingly higher than expected. We then commence climbing along steep coastal cliffs which are covered in slime, so it's essential to climb slowly and second guess every step.
We're kind of cut off by the water. It says it's low tide. I checked the tide guide and it said low tide at 7 a.m. But in the winter, low tide is way higher than a summer low tide, so we've kind of got cut off by the water, which means that I'm going to have to get taties deep in the ocean and climb along these slippery rocks. So, do you fancy doing that, love?
No, I kind of like this spot.
You're going to stay here?
Yeah.
You don't fancy getting your crotch wet?
I already got my feet wet.
Is it snowing or is it ash?
I think it's snow. It's trying to snow.
Just a bit sketchy, isn't it? Oh. Too slippery.
We're pretty much stuck.
Okay, let me rethink this. This is my little climbing camera bag. It's really tiny and it only has enough space for pretty much one camera, 1 lens, and then your jacket and some food. But it's so much better for when you're climbing on slippery, sketchy rocks like these than my full camera bag, which just messes with your balance. And then when you put a tripod on, it's just 10 times worse. So, and even with this, it's still kind of sketchy. My balance is a bit off. So I just have to make sure that it's like super tight. And then I'm going to adjust how this tripod fits in, because it just doesn't sit right. We'll see. So this is I think it's our 4th attempt at this shot. And what makes it so challenging is that, so we're on the Gulf Islands of British Columbia. And what makes it challenging is you have to get a ferry to get here, you have to spend the night because it's a sunrise location, and then you have to hike down these really sketchy rocks in the dark to get there in time for the good light. And as always, the good light is happening right now, but we're cut off by the water. So I've been watching the forecast, and for the first time in 2 months everything was looking good. So you're looking for the right amount of cloud, you're looking for it to be clear in the east, and you're looking for low tide, because if this is low tide, I can't imagine what high tide is. Well, we'd be swimming. And yesterday I thought I had this brainwave, or a brain fart, and I thought we should probably just buy a kayak. Let's just buy a 2-person kayak, and then we just paddle out here, and then we don't have to worry about the tide. And I just ran out of time and thought, oh well, we'll just do what we used to do and just climb along. Well, I should have bought that kayak, but my God, a 2-person kayak ain't cheap. So I'd be spending upwards of $2,500 or more just for 1 shot. So you can see why I decided to climb instead. I don't mind getting my feet wet and getting in the water. It's just climbing down this one last spot is just a bit sketchy when you've got a wet landing. So I'd rather land in something that something that I can see.
We even had a visit from some of the locals. Lucky buggers.
Yeah, they've got no problem getting there. They're going to get there. Enjoy the shot. I'm sure you'll get a good shot, Mr. Sea Lion.
After a mysterious change of clothes, camera bag and cloud cover, I finally arrived at my destination just as the light began to kick off. Would I miss the best of the light once again, or would I find my shot just in time?
It's 7 a.m. I've had 3 hours of sleep, and I do have a face like a pre-chewed dumpling that's been shat out in anger. But I'm ecstatically happy because we're here on the Gulf Islands of British Columbia, ready to hopefully shoot a spectacular sunrise. And I think there's a chance we might get some spectacular light, because if you look on the horizon, even though the sky is full of clouds, there's that little gap just right there on the horizon where the sun will hopefully poke through and then light all of this from underneath. That's my hope. Let's get over there and see if it happens.
Nothing beats a cold winter morning on the BC coast. The seals were frolicking, eagles and gulls were arguing over breakfast, and we had the entire place all to ourselves. It's pretty much a paradise, as long as you've got lots and lots of layers.
So what's drawn me to this particular location is just this spectacular rock formation, this sea stack over here. I believe it's called taffety. It's got this kind of like, it's almost like a toffee looking substance. I think it's sandstone, and just the erosion just creates these unbelievable patterns. But this particular sea stack over here is such a weird, bizarre alien shape, and I've shot it before from a multitude of angles, and it's just so fascinating. So I wanted to get here super early and try and catch it while some nice light happens. So it's a pretty nice sunrise over in the east there, but what I'm hoping for is a bit more colour in the clouds that are higher up, and then once the sun pops up, it should light all of these rock formations from the side and give it some nice contrast and relief, and maybe a nice hot glow. The last time I was here, I arrived even later than I did today, so I just didn't have the time to film anything. In fact, I just rattled off a few shots.
As you can see, with the right kind of light, this rock formation really comes to life. And when I shot this image, I had just 90 seconds of good light, so I had to come back.
So now I'm here a little bit earlier, still quite late, but I'm hoping that I can get those same compositions I got before, but with way better light. And I can just see it is starting to light up the underside of these clouds here. Look at that colour, absolutely gorgeous colour. It's even lighting up the trees. You can see the trees lighting up behind me, and way off in the distance there, I don't know if you can see it, but there's the ferry going to the mainland, and that's catching that beautiful glow. I don't think I have long though, so I'm gonna have to stop filming, work on my compositions and get those ready, because if you look at that tiny little gap on the horizon, the sun it might not even make it through at all, but if it does, I reckon I'll have just minutes to get the shot. So I'll stop Gavin and get working. Oh, fingers crossed.
Just like that, the light was done. But rather than give up, I got busy hunting for new compositions just in case the light decided to come back. And if it didn't, well, at least I'd be prepared for my next visit.
Just look at that, within minutes, gone. I think we had maybe 4 minutes of light, didn't we? And that was it, done.
It was pretty though.
It was pretty. Well, I mean, we'll stick around. It's not very likely that it's going to get any better,
I think it's gone.
I just just like the colors of it. Look at it. When you look down at it, all the greens and the yellow. Then it's like his little nose. Little boogers. So cute. What would I call him?
Well, it's a dinosaur of some kind.
So, Ralph?
Well, I decided to call it Petrified Rex. I just love finding little hidden gems like this. It's kind of like finding that one standout tree in a forest. Just knowing that it's there, waiting for the perfect lighting conditions, fills me with a warm, fuzzy glow. Some people gain happiness and security from having lots of zeros in their bank balance, but for me, these are the things that make me feel rich. It's experiences and golden moments. Those are the truest form of wealth that I can think of. Landscape photography motivates me to get out in nature and witness these moments that I would probably otherwise never get to see. And that's just one of the reasons why I love landscape photography.
Just look at that rock formation. I mean, I've got amazing shapes and colours and texture, but it's even got a little arch in it. And that's right here on the British Columbia coast. I mean, I'm used to seeing that kind of thing in somewhere like Utah or Arizona, but here in BC on the coast, like basically in the ocean, absolutely spectacular. So weird. Well, we waited. We've given it, 45 minutes since the sun made a little appearance, but it's just got worse and worse. I don't think it's coming back, so I think we might as well just quit.
Yeah.
Go back to the camper and maybe have a coffee, eh?
Yeah.
And then on to the next location. But I'm coming back.
I thought you weren't 2 seconds ago.
No, I'm lying. I'm never coming back.
You'll be back.
Yeah, you reckon?
Yeah.
And so we staggered back to the camper among the rocks of catastrophe.
We're almost back at the camper, and there's these pretty cool rock formations on this part of the beach. So I've spotted this quite interesting cleft in this rock. So now that I've just told you how gorgeous Taffety is, I'm ignoring all that. I'm just going for this weird sort of, it's kind of like a junction where all of these plates meet. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like a weird 6-pointed star. Let me show you. It's kind of like a starfish shape. Oh, there's some light coming. Look at that. Hopefully you can see that. Now, if I brought my telephoto lens, I'd have a fantastic shot of the lighthouse on that island with the mountains and those clouds lighting up. It would be absolutely fantastic. But I didn't bring it, did I? I didn't bring it. Yeah. Because I was doing this climb, right? And there's the sun popping up. There you go. Yeah. It's probably fantastic right down there where we're trying to get to. Low tide. It's not low. It's not low, is it? So I'm pointing in the opposite direction to the sun in the hopes that that kind of light that you see there will hit these clouds here. So I'll have this starfish shape in the bottom 2/3 of my frame, and then hopefully pink glowing clouds in the top third. Oh, look, we're starting to get a little bit over there, so let me just show you what I've framed up, see if it's any good. Okay, so the light has just popped up. Look at this lovely, I've got some lovely side light on my camera. That's not where I want it, but as you can see, this lovely starfish shape here, which is now actually catching some nice side light. Look at all that. That is my sort of foreground subject, which I'm hoping you can see there in the foreground. And so as I said, I've got actually, if you want to split it into quarters, I've got 3/4 of my frame devoted to the foreground, and then just that quarter of my frame for the sky there. But there's still not much going on. Those clouds are pretty dull, blue, slate greyish colour, so that's not that exciting to me. But this foreground is. So I'm just going to have to wait until these clouds do something and light up. I mean, look at all this gorgeous light that I've got going on over here. Oh, look at that. That is just... Yeah, maybe I will turn it around and just shoot that. Yeah, go on, I'll do it. That background is just fantastic. I'm absolutely cursing myself for not bringing my telephoto lens, because the lighthouse surrounded by the mountains and that beautiful light just would have made a fantastic pano that I probably could have just shot from the camper. I thought I'd bring a minimal set of gear, so I brought one camera, one lens, no telephoto. Yeah. So now I'm doing this composition. So what I've done is I've framed up this fairly interesting barnacle covered rock here in the foreground with these gentle waves kind of lapping around it, which I find quite interesting. And then obviously that island with the lighthouse and that spectacular light is the backdrop. The problem is, because it's a super wide shot, that background is really tiny. It's just way off in the distance. And then of course this foreground is huge, so the balance isn't quite there. I could always do a perspective blend, but I don't think the shot really warrants it, to be quite honest. But anyway, I'll show you this composition, talk you through what I've got, and then hopefully by the time I'm done with this, those clouds will light up a bit more and I can go back to that vertical shot. Oh, that light is just... What it is it's rain. There's a rain cloud over there raining down over the ocean, and the sun is hitting that rain as it cascades down. I just love that kind of light. It's just spectacular. Right, okay, let me show you this comp. Okay, so what we have here, I'll just change my exposure a little bit so you can see what's going on in the foreground. So as you can see, I've got this kind of like a little frame, this bowl shape that kind of frames this main little pinnacle of rock in the middle. And I just like how these gentle waves are lapping around it. So I'm trying to go for shutter speeds of around about 1/6 of a second to 1/2 of a second, and that's giving me some nice sort of just a little bit of motion blur and texture on the water. And I might even try a few super fast exposures if we get a few bigger waves and we get a little bit of spray jumping up into the air. That might be kind of cool. So that'd be a good sort of blend to have some spray and a long exposure. And then of course if I just make it a little bit darker, you can see that lovely pink light in the background there. So to do the foreground, obviously I've focused on the foreground. I'm at f11 and I've focused on that. There we go, that's pretty sharp. So I've already got an assortment of exposures, but basically I get that shot. And then what I do is focus on the background. Just zoom in a bit, change the focus on that. I can't really tell on the back of this screen. I much prefer looking through the EVF, and I don't trust the autofocus on this particular lens. But yeah, just take a couple of brackets, one slightly underexposed just to retain those highlights. Those clouds are looking pretty cool now, look at that. So now that's what's going on in the background of that vertical shot. So I think I'll take one more frame of this and then I'll head back to that vertical shot.
As I mentioned earlier, that lovely light in the distance is just so small that the balance of this composition just doesn't quite work, so I thought I'd try a perspective blend. Now this was just a quick and rough blend using layer masks in Photoshop, but basically I shot one frame at 16mm and then another at 35 and then just blended them together.
Okay, so now I'm back at this vertical comp, and look at what's going on in the clouds here. I'm getting some lovely, look, I'll show you that. Hopefully you can see that. That lovely storm light, it's just starting to creep in from the edge of the frame. Well, into the edge of the frame, just here. Hopefully you could just see that. I'll just brighten it up a little bit. So there is my quite interesting starfish foreground, and you can actually see in the water there's a bit of a sort of a pink hue, which is a reflection from the clouds directly above me, which is also kind of cool. So basically what I'm going to have to do with this shot is just keep shooting frames of the clouds until I get the absolute best of that light, however long it's going to last. It seems to be getting a little bit better. And then once I've got all my sky frames, then I'll increase my exposure value, overexpose it a bit, and shoot the foreground, which I'll probably have to focus stack, because as you can see I'm quite close to it there. Actually, look at that shape, it's so interesting. Pretty cool rock formation, and it's kind of a weird collection of colours, because you've got this green tone, which is this sort of mossy lichen type stuff, and then the rock itself is more of a sort of sandy colour, which you can see through the water there, and then it's reflecting all of these colours from these pink clouds. So it's a weird colour palette. I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll keep shooting anyway, because look at that light. That is just magnifico.
Well, let's be honest, it's not one of my best shots, is it? I like the foreground, but there's not enough going on in the middle ground to make it a compelling image. Ah well, you can't win them all.
As an influencer, it's kind of your responsibility to set trends, fashion trends. And you might be noticing today that I'm sporting a very stylish look, which basically involves long johns. These are my merino wool long johns. So you start with those, then you put on 2 pairs of socks, which you absolutely must pull all the way up, as far as they will go up your shins, because that's part of the look, right? That's what the look is all about. And then you put your sports shorts on top of that, and then your outerwear. And it's this combo, it's the long johns and the high socks that really sets the edge. You know, it's a cutting edge of fashion that I basically set for landscape photographers. And I think to finish the look off, you really have to have hiking boots that are falling apart, you know, completely collapsing. Yeah, as an influencer, a trend-setting influencer, I really do take my responsibilities quite seriously. I guess I'll get back to the camper and have a quick breakfast and then go and line up for the ferry. That'll only take 3 or 4 hours. Yeah, long journey home. Yeah. Oh, there's an eagle. Look at that. Hello, eagle.
All right, Gavin.
Hi. Did you get any fish?
Nah, just a couple of crabs, really. Rubbish.
There he goes. Alright, so if this video didn't depress you and make you want to end it all, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.